Olmsted's work in Chicago actually began outside the city limits. In 1868, a developer bought a 1,600-acre tract on the Des Plaines River near Chicago and asked Olmsted and Vaux to design a residential community that would be called Riverside.
The developer wanted basically Central Park with houses in it. And Olmsted said, no, it's not that simple. You have to create public spaces within it, but also you have private spaces.
Olmsted and Vaux created this meandering streetscape. As you go through it, you're never looking at pavement. You're looking into nature. When it was built, it was a very new idea. It's among the first of this utopian garden suburbs. There are certain parts of Riverside that were meant to be common ground. He sees the social benefit of having some open green space that is good for body, mind, and spirit, and excellent for community building.
Most suburbs are a kind of pale imitation of that. But there's no doubt that one legacy of Olmsted is the garden suburb.
Riverside was for many years the only entire community in the United States listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Because Olmsted designed it, and because the town has maintained that design program from 1869 to the present.
Olmsted and Vaux's work in Chicago extended well beyond Riverside. Chicago's leaders wanted a unified park system for the city, so in 1870, they hired Olmsted and Vaux to draw up the plans.
They envisioned this beautiful meadow, which they believed would convey a sense of prairie-like simplicity. And then the eastern side would be the place where a series of rugged lagoons would connect with Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan would serve as this very sort of naturally sublime element. The lake would then become the guiding theme for his plan.
But the Great Chicago Fire of 1871 interrupted the city's plans for a park system, and Olmsted and Vaux's design was put on hold for decades. But when Chicago began to plan the world's Columbian Exposition of 1893, they called on Olmsted once again.
Olmsted was asked to come back and help select a site for the fair, and he felt that having Lake Michigan as a backdrop and having this idea of waterways with boating as kind of a major aspect of the fairgrounds would be one of the most important things. Olmsted was obsessed with the idea of boating for the World's Fair. He wanted to have gondolas.
There were also gondoliers who'd been brought from Venice for the summer, and over 200 gondoliers were, with their gondolas, plying Chicago's lagoon during the World's Fair.
Today, there is one major building that was left from the fair, and it was the Fine Arts Palace, and today it's the Museum of Science and Industry. You can easily imagine what it was like to take a gondola right up to the terrace of the museum and imagine people entering that building. Olmsted's original plan, he included this sort of natural sandy bar peninsula because he saw that it had this great stand of native oak trees. When he was then coming back to re-envision the site as the world's Columbian Exposition, he decided to carve that peninsula into the wooded island.
He insisted that at the heart of the fair, there should be a naturalistic feature. It should be symbolic that at the heart of all human activity, there must be nature. It also was symbolic of the way urban planning should go forward. If we were going to plan new cities that were industrial, that were modern, there should still be these parks. And so in a sense, the campus of the World's Fair is a microcosm of the vision of the city of the future that will have parks as an essential central part of it.
After the closing of the exposition, the White City was dismantled, and the Olmsted firm began transforming the site back into parkland. In 1905, Olmsted's sons, began to design a series of neighborhood parks for Chicago's South Side, reviving elements of the original plan Olmsted and Vaux had created years before.
His sons, under the name Olmsted Brothers, redeveloped the park to include new active uses, which is the beginning of the transition to a 20th century concept of parks. In the 19th century, parks are about passive use, taking a walk, looking at a vista, sitting on a bench and thinking. In the 20th century, sports start to become more important. The Olmsted Brothers are part of that process, and it's their responsibility to make sure that the design vocabulary of nature is not lost.
When you talk about the legacy of what did Olmsted leave, it's partly beautiful designs. These are just such gorgeous spaces that people still enjoy. His idea was that this is a place for all people. He talked specifically about working people, and here's a place where people of all different classes and backgrounds could come on their time off from work, and everybody could be equal. And so, it was really a very democratic idea.